Thank you, Scott. I've got Scott Becker with us. He is running for the 219th District Court, which has been Judge Henderson's court for the last 22 years. He's retiring now. You've made it into the runoff. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And
thanks to the voters.
The district courts are courts of general jurisdiction. They handle felonies. They handle lawsuits over $100,000, juvenile cases, and all the family law cases, I believe.
That's correct.
So the first thing I want to do, Scott, is give you an opportunity to tell the voters why they should vote for you.
Well, I think at this point, Bill, first of all, I'd like to extend you a happy Easter, and as well as anybody else who may be watching this. I'd like to say that we had a great message the first time, and I think it was trust and experience. I've been trusted by every major law enforcement association throughout the county, as evidenced by their endorsements. I've been trusted by the Texas Homeschool Coalition, as well as Family Focus, groups that deal mostly with the family law issues, as well as different lawyers from the bar through a variety of different practice areas. And all those different groups know that I have a broad background, and I have some experience in every single area that this court has jurisdiction over. So I guess it's the same message we gave before, trust and experience, and I hope that the people that made that decision before will take the effort to go back and make it again, as we know that runoffs generally have a lot of drop-off. We're hoping to make sure we have a high turnout. We think that'll favor us.
Very good. Thank you, sir. My second question is going to have to do with the administration of the courts. State of Texas, Collin County, virtually every level of government is under some serious budget constraints with this economy. And I know the state is looking very hard at different ways to, well, bluntly reduce prison populations and reduce the cost of incarceration. One of the tools that seem to be in vogue now are the creation of specialty courts. And I think it's because a lot of people believe that these courts are more efficient and that they are more thorough and creative in finding ways to channel offenders into a system that doesn't require incarceration and hopefully will not cause them to offend again. What are your feelings on specialty courts? I know Collin County has a DWI court. As a member of the Board of Judges, you'll have a lot of say in how cases are allocated. Are you in favor of? What is your concerns or your thoughts on the creation of specialty courts?
Well, Bill, I would say first of all that there's a lot of judges, obviously, that have been on the district bench much longer than I will have been. As a new member, I'll be the junior member, or one of the junior members. And the first thing I learned as a brand new lawyer is to listen more than I talked. And I hope I can adopt that same thing back in the Board of District Judges meetings and make sure I listen to some of the things that have been done by judges who've been there longer than me and see what has worked. Recently, Judge Ray Wheelis is a new appointee. He's got a specialty court program going on. By the time I were able to take the bench, if we are successful in this election, there'll be a track record for that to see how that's been working. There's other judges like Judge Oldner and Judge Joe Willis that have some ideas, and also Judge Dry and Judge Rush have been on the bench much longer. I'd like to listen to each of them as well as the rest of the Board of District Judges and see what seems to be working, what seems to not be working, and let's see if we can improve it.
Thank you. A few months ago, the Observer sent out some questionnaires to all the candidates, and one of the questions that you answered was, do you believe that our system of partisan election of trial judges should be continued? And you wrote that you thought that it would be practically impossible to remove partisan politics, but you also said that you thought that one advantage of having partisan elections was the transparency to the voters, that they could see at least get an inkling of the philosophy of the candidates. Now, you've been on the campaign trail for several months now. You've met a lot of people. You've certainly been deep involved in partisan politics. Based on your experiences now, do you feel the same way you did 2 months ago when you filled out this questionnaire?
I do. And I'd like to, when I filled out that questionnaire, I was looking at it not just from the point of view of a candidate, but from the point of view of a voter as well, because I'm running for one office, but I also cast a vote in each of the other races. And I think it serves the voter best when they know what each candidate stands for. And right now, as I mentioned before, it's practically impossible, I think, to remove partisan politics because the organizations that are set up out there to encourage voters to know more about candidates and to get to the polls and to participate in our electoral process are mostly partisan organizations. And I think that if a candidate is willing to identify with one party or the other, then that says something about them that the voters would want to know. If the candidate is going to be held accountable by anybody, it's going to be by the voters. And so I think it's easier to do that when they have to identify with one side or the other as to what their philosophy is.
Thank you very much. My last question, and I asked you this question once before, so I'm going to ask you again now. But I'm going to ask you to kind of go down a little bit, bore down into the detail. If you're elected and you become a trial judge in Collin County, what can you do, and that's you as a judge, to assure the people that come into your courtroom, be they jurors, be they litigants, be they defendants, or the state, that the business of that court is justice and that they will be treated fairly?
I think, again, I'd get back to transparency. One of the questions we hear a lot on the campaign trail, people are kind of curious as to what exactly a judge does or what the difference is between the different types of judges we have in Collin County. And if we could have an increased opportunity for the public to come into our courtrooms, specifically for my courtroom if I'm successful at this endeavor, to have different groups from Rotary clubs or Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts or different civics classes in our local schools, different groups of different organizations all over the place, partisan or otherwise, that could see a judge do the business of the day on a daily basis. Some of it is exciting stuff like we see on TVs, their trials. Much of it is ministerial stuff that people would be, quite frankly, bored in 10 minutes and don't want to watch anymore. But if they get to watch how those judges carry themselves, and they have that opportunity, the courtrooms are public forums and people are welcome to come into the courthouse and watch these different proceedings on any day, I think people just don't actually take advantage of it often enough. I'd like to encourage different groups to do that more frequently so that we hear that question of what exactly does a judge do less frequently the next time the elections come around.
Thank you, Scott. And we're out of time. I want to thank you very much for sitting with me twice now, and I want to wish you the best of luck in your campaign.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Bye-bye.